So you need to think about these things. We need to look at some sort of consistency. Why is it that Israel has a special trade agreement and why other countries don't? What worse thing can someone do than blow up children, innocent men and women living in an open air concentration camp, which is nothing less than a prison, who can run nowhere? What worse atrocity have we seen in our times than that? So I'm going to end. I don't need to take up the full 10 minutes. I'm sure you fully understand what I'm talking about, and I'm sure you fully understand that you need to be consulted, and you need to have your views aired, and you need to have your views respected. Until now, I have not yet seen in party politics that the views of Muslims and the views of the general society of British people have been respected or listened to in any way, shape or form. The most recent thing I've seen now, which really disgusts me, is the fact that our Prime Minister marches off to Pakistan and tells the Pakistani president, can you blow up your own people, please, because there's some terrorists over there? And they do it straight away. Apparently a load of aid was supposed to go to Pakistan, yet we are getting letters in the post asking us to donate money to help the refugees in Pakistan. What happened to that billions of pounds that was supposed to help them? I haven't seen it, you haven't seen it, they haven't seen it. Yet, when there was IRA terrorism in this country and we had IRA next door to us, did this government go and bomb Ireland? No. Why was the difference? Ask yourselves, what was the difference? Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Sohail, for that. Before I go to the next candidate, I just remembered one thing I forgot to say was we did actually invite the Conservative Party. They've been very elusive. I mean, there's absolutely no reason. I mean, we've had the Labour Party and we've got the second on the list. So, I mean, the Conservatives had plenty of time and opportunity to come and be represented. And they've been very elusive and haven't represented themselves. So I'm not sure what the reasoning is. But having researched, I found that they haven't been going to a lot of the hustings, maybe, especially to Muslim ones, maybe they're worried about, the questions that will be asked. So I just wanted to put that on record, yeah. Thanks. So I'm going to go next to Christopher Le Breton. He is the Lib Dem spokesman.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, I will get some ideas across to you. I want to speak about 3 or 4 issues, if you like, paint a picture. But by the way, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. And if I speak too fast, which I sometimes do when I get excited, please put a hand up, okay? I thought I'd touch base or give some color on some things: trade, environment, justice, and peace building. And because I think this next Parliament in this next European Parliament session is perhaps the most important ever, because when you look at the multitude of issues which have to be resolved in terms of trade and fairness between countries around the world, and environment and peace building, I think this is when decisions have to be taken. The world is in an extremely serious state environmentally, but also in terms of the conflict between protection and free trade. So let's look at trade. When I worked in the former Soviet Union in the 1990s, in the early 1990s particularly, I remember being in Moscow in 1991, and there was absolutely no free trade at all. I queued for 4 hours in a square in the snow to get my food. And so when I came back to Europe afterwards, I was stunned to see an orange. So I really felt that free trade, yes, it has wonderful, wonderful benefits for us here in the West. And if you look at some people around the world, perhaps a farmer in Pakistan or in Egypt, he can produce beans or something and sell them to Europe, and he gets funds that he can then use to send his kids to school. And it's kind of, it sounds all great. We're happy and they're happy. And then, of course, as you all know, you look at the issues more clearly. You realize that he is having to send more and more beans every year to get the same amount of foreign exchange. He's mining his soil so that he can get foreign exchange, and he's beginning to suffer as the soil fertility goes down, because he's also having to compete with others from around the world. So actually, you begin to see that this free trade system is all very, very well. It helps us here in our countries, but it's actually increasingly very unfair for others around the world. Let's look at justice. There's a lovely film which my Green Party candidate may know of called The Story of Stuff, which looks at how things are produced. And when you see some of the things in the shops here, the prices are incredibly low. And you think, well, how on earth could it be so low? How on earth did it get here? Who paid the real cost for this? It may be a plastic radio costing 5 or 10 quid, a tiny little one. And the fact is that nobody paid the real cost. The bauxite was mined in, say, southern Africa. The oil was mined was drilled in the Middle East. And wherever the mining took place, pollution was just left on the side, and the local people had to suffer the pollution of to the air, the soil, and the poor wages. And then the materials were shipped across, say, to China, where people are living in dreadful conditions in the cities with very low wages, more pollution into the air, more pollution into the water. And then the radios are shipped back to the UK, say, we buy them cheaply, but then they break down after 2 years and they have to be thrown into the environment as landfill. And this is the system we've come up with in our planet. And there is no justice in this. The resources are beginning to run out, and quite urgently we need to come up with a new kind of capitalism. Instead of a capitalism which makes money now and pollutes the earth and leaves it for future generations to tackle, we've got to come up with a capitalism which makes money now but cleans the past and leaves the earth free for the future. That's the challenge. And I know from my experience around the world, many Muslims are among the most dynamic entrepreneurs. So it's almost like in partnership. It's a call. We've got to find this new way of engaging with the planet to have a standard of living that we can all have and have balance without the pollution. That's not my phone, isn't it? Good. Okay. The United Nations on the environment said, and I quote, human activity is putting such a strain on the natural functions of Earth that the ability of the planet's ecosystems to sustain future generations can no longer be taken for granted. This was reported in the Millennium Ecosystems Report, which was released by the United Nations Environment Programme. It's the first time they've actually said that. And I'm aware that nobody else I've met on the Hustings is talking about these big issues. These are big ticket issues. We have 90% of the fish in the world's oceans extinct. We have many animals extinct. Many plants, birds we heard in the UK are beginning to die out. Across the world, more problems from pollution, but also climate change. These are big ticket issues. And I see it as the European Parliament's responsibility to come up with a coherent package of measures to tackle this, which will make a difference in Europe, but also around the world. And if you like, as the EU, I see as a benevolent power, using democracy and full consultation as much as possible. And I take on board what you said, and I've got some examples to share later. But as far as we can have full consultation with other people, the EU should be taking a lead to save the planet. And finally, I just want to touch on peace building. You probably know that the Liberal Democrats were the only party to be consistently against the Iraq war. I need to say no more about that. It goes to the heart of who we are as people. We are a party which is in favour of Turkey joining the European Union if it meets the body of legislation which we call the acquis. And I've said this to my colleagues all over the EU regularly when I go to Brussels. I have no objection at all. In fact, it would be great if Turkey were to join the EU. There's a body of legislation, standards and laws, and any country who meets that, as far as I'm concerned, is very welcome. And after Turkey, we should look at other countries. What about Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan? And one day, who knows, if we can come on to this later. Israel and Palestine I see as one country in future. I don't believe in the two-state solution. I don't think it would work. But imagine a democratic Arab-Jewish country in the Middle East, and then that can join the EU. So, some ideas for the future. I think I'll leave it there. I've given you a sort of a potpourri of ideas. I hope you've understood. I know some of you are sleeping, so I hope it's the heat rather than me. And I'll hand back to the chair.